Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jodi White and I'm with Belay Mortgage Group. So can you guys all see my screen okay? We'll take Joe's nod yes. Can you see creating value for your clients using renovation lending? Okay, good. So today we're just going to talk about how renovation lending works. I'm going to talk through, this is kind of one way you can set yourself apart for how you can add value to your clients. So business will never change. This is kind of a fun story from a New York City taxi cab driver that thought there's, just no way anything will ever change. So, not that long ago, the cost of a cab was quite high. So if you look at this, March 2017, one sold for $241,000. After Uber, Lyft, all the industry changes, you can see it's not that advantageous to buy a cab in New York City anymore. So you can see there, that is an industry that has really changed as a result from renovation and innovation. So, I'm going to actually see, if we go into lending, we have definitely seen our fair share of changes too. The invent of these overnight mortgages, the CFPB changes, Amazon lending, I think is something that's coming out. So we think that providing renovation lending is something that can help add value to our clients as well and set us apart from, other lenders. So if you look at these numbers, you can see that most people that buy a home end up going and making renovations right away. And if you're a first-time home buyer or someone with limited cash, that can be hard to come by. So the awesome renovation loans that we have allow you to go in and use the visionary mindset and see, how you can change a space to be your home rather than just, moving in and doing it one step at a time. So you can see, and bedrooms, a remodel for a bedroom is $2,500 or a kitchen remodel is $5,000. And if you just come in either a first time or even a second time home buyer, sometimes coming up with another $20,000 or $30,000 to do repairs is hard to do. So with the renovation loan, you can actually finance all of that in. So these are just a couple pictures of, what you can do with the exterior of a home. This one's one of my favorites, how it just, with a little bit of paint and some landscaping, how different a space can look. And so when you're looking at houses, especially in our market, not having a lot of inventory to choose from, this can open up the availability of houses. So, if your client really needs a 3-bedroom and you find one that's got the great location but only has 2 bedrooms and they want to add a bedroom, you can use a renovation loan to add a bedroom. So you can add square footage, you can fix foundation, you can do new windows, you can do a new roof. There's different loan types that allow different things. So like FHA has, which I'm going to go over in a minute, FHA has a Streamlined where you can't do any kind of structural work, but you can do all the cosmetics that you want as long as it's under about $30,000. So you can do quite a lot for $30,000 if you think about paint, maybe some new flooring in a kitchen, some new appliances, but that can really change a space. So we'll get into the ins and outs of which ones work for what kind of projects, but I mean, you can really take a house and almost gut it and do a renovation loan depending on what the future appraised value is. So, in this market where that might be a cash only offer and you have a client that, has already been counseled and really understands the renovation process and the renovation loan, and you already have a contractor set up, you could go in and make, a 45 to 60 day offer on that and still, be able to compete with the cash offers that are wanting to make a really low ball offer. So here's some ways that renovation lending can create value for you as a real estate agent. So, if you're looking at houses in the market that are distressed, otherwise could be only cash, this can help set you apart and help, your clients can feel comfortable making an offer on that. The need TLC sold as is fixer uppers can be kind of scary when it comes to buying a house. And if you go in there and you have your contractor in, right, your first inspection, you go and check it out and you say, okay, these are the things that need to be done. They can give you a price tag on it. And if you're already set up on a renovation loan, okay, hey, this is how much room we have. We can totally finance all of this and make it the house that you want it to be. it's cool because, you know, when you buy new construction, you can go in and you pick your finishes and you pick your colors and you can create your own space. And this allows for that in a pre-existing house. So, you know, some other reasons that you'd want to choose renovation loans, you can see them listed here. The sweat equity, I think, is a big one. You know, you can really earn a lot of equity by going in and making those upgrades yourself rather than going in and buy something that's already pre-done. A lot of times they mark it up, and so you can really get a good value for your clients by incorporating the renovation lending option. So here's some of the different programs that are available. The 203K Limited, this is the one I was talking about that's non-structural. So the total renovation budget ends up being about $31,000. And the reason why it's less than that $35,000 is because you need to account for, there's a 10% contingency fund, which is, you know, in case the construction goes over budget. If you're going to have like different inspections that come along that are soft costs that are financed in, but the total amount of the renovation portion can't be above $35,000. So it ends up being like 31 and some change. So if you go into a house and you say, hey, we need to do a little bit of the bathroom, we want to get, you know, new paint, get a little bit of new flooring, as long as it's not structural, you can finance that without having any kind of inspector come out. The funds are 50% available at closing, which I'll speak to a little bit later in the process. But it's really fast. Like you just need one bid. The bid is good. You don't have to go out and get 3 different bids from 3 different contractors. The things that you can do, like I said, are kind of limited. But if you looked at the limited versus the standard, the main difference is that you have an FHA inspector that needs to come out. And they'll come out and they'll look at the home and they'll tell you what it takes to get it up to minimum standards. So FHA has its own minimum set of standards for financing, you know, like no exposed paint, no exposed wires. It has to have a stove, you know, anything that's attached as an appliance in there, no leaking current water hazards, things like that. So the 203K will have an inspector come out and tell us what the minimum standards are, and then also take into account what the plan is for your construction. So this is one where you could say that it says non-structural improvements are allowed on here. And so when you think of structures, that would be anything like a subfloor. Like sometimes you get into the flooring problems and there's a subfloor that needs to be replaced. That would take it from an FHA limited into a 203K standard. So this one is good if you have to do a full tear off on a roof. You can totally do that with the 203K standard. Anything that is foundation issues. And the great thing about this is you only need to put 3.5% down of the purchase price plus the cost of repairs. So if you're thinking about the amount of funds that you have available, you know, sometimes you try to go in and put a minimal amount down so you have money to do the renovation, but sometimes it just doesn't meet minimum property standards. And so you need to do one of the renovation products. So the VA, that one's a little bit like the limited. This is hard to come by the VA renovation loan. I put it here because I think that there's been a couple of investors that have come out offering this, but it's very limited. It really needs to be non-structural, cosmetic. You can still do 100% financing, but finding an investor that is willing to fund one of these it's been hard for us in the past couple of years. The Homesyle renovation loan is similar to the 203K. So the Homesyle, it basically is purchase price plus the cost of repairs, and then it's 5% down of that number versus the 203K standard, which is 3.5%. So why would we want to use conventional? You can basically, the renovation budget can be 75% of the as is completed value. So that's quite a lot of work that you can do. It has conventional mortgage insurance, which is removable at a certain point of equity position, whereas the FHA needs to have a certain down payment to meet that. And, you know, the mortgage insurance is quite a bit lower and there's no upfront mortgage insurance. So this isn't something that you would have to put together for your clients, but just know that there's a lot of different options available when it comes to renovation. And they seem kind of scary, but if you work with someone that's done a lot of them, I love these loans. They're really fun as long as you have your contractor pick it out ahead of time. One of the biggest snags I see in these is that people get into a home and then they want to try to deal shop, you know, like who's going to do their renovations, and that's not the right time to do it. If you're going to deal shop it, you got to do it before you're in contract and before you picked a house. And so I think that that's the biggest counsel you as a real estate agent can give your clients, is making sure that you have already vetted your contractor and they're ready to go and ready to jump on your project. Now, we do know that contractors are a little further out for being able to start a project. So most of these are allowed for 6 months completion, unless it's a really big project. And then like with the 203K standard, if it's like a huge project and it's going to take longer than 6 months, you can actually finance in the mortgage payments. It's all determined upon project though. Okay, are there any questions on that before I move on? Okay. Okay, so this is the comparison of the FHA products. So there's the 203K Streamlined, which is that one that had the $35,000 limit. And then there's the full 203K. So as you can see here, some of the stuff I touched on, there's a $5,000 minimum at some investors for the limited 203K. And they all share the maximum of $35,000. So the soft costs included in there are any kind of permits or anything that might need to be had. And then if you look with the 203K, it does also say the 5,000. It says no max, but it does have the FHA maximum mortgage amount. So, you know, if it's like the repairs are going to be 150,000, you can finance those in. The full 203K, you can finance in the mortgage payments. You can't do that with the Streamline. Usually those are really small projects though, so they don't take that long. They usually take 30 to 60 days for completion, if even that long. And then you can see, as the limited says, you get 50% draw at closing. So the different types of renovation products have a different draw process. So what that means is when we close on the Streamline, we'll just call it, that one, you get 50% at closing. So the contractor can start the work and then they get the remaining funds after the project is done and it's been inspected to make sure everything's good to go. Usually the appraiser is the one that comes out and inspects to see if everything's done on that one. So some different investors are different though. So they'll say that you need the actual 203K or the FHA consultant to come out on the Streamlines. So I would suggest finding a different lender if they have you do that, because that's a really big added cost and a lot of time added to those. So there's only there's a limited amount within our metro area of the 203K consultants, which is the FHA inspector or consultant that needs to come out. So keeping that in mind, that's one reason why a lot of people end up using the Homesyle renovation versus the standard 203K. So again, we can do the structural alterations with the standard 203K. I think that's all we really need to go over on this one. This one, oh, the limited, you can do a well and or septic system. It really depends on the extent of what the repairs need to be and how much work has to happen on it. So the VA renovation, this one does have the 90-day time limit versus the other two. For simplicity on this, it's basically a FHA Streamlined with a different name and 100% financing rather than 3.5% down. But again, no structural repairs, so it's mostly cosmetic, you know, paint, new flooring, possibly some new appliances. You can do like some of the plumbing and heating and air conditioning stuff, but anything that starts to get into structural, and they're going to kick it out. VAs, as you probably know, a little bit more finicky on things, so I'd suggest I would probably have someone go over and do an FHA renovation rather than try the VA. And then the conventional home style renovation, you can see that it doesn't only apply to a 1-unit property that's a primary residence. You can use it for a second home, and you can also use it for investment. So investment's kind of fun because, you know, if you're a first-time investor and you're scraping up all that close to 20% and you don't have a lot of funds to go in and do the renovations, again, this is the purchase price plus the cost of the renovations. So that can really open up things for your first-time investors that are looking at getting into a property and want to do some repairs on it to get some of that sweat equity. You can do this on a 1 to 4 units, which is great. Little as 3% down for your first-time home buyers. You do have to have one of the borrowers as a first-time home buyer. Traditional is the 5% down, and then you can, I'll let you read through these. Structural repairs on this one. So, you know, if you have a big project where you want to add a room, add a bathroom, you want, they will allow ADUs on this one from what I know, depending on the investor. So if you want to convert something into a space where you can rent it out, this can be a good option, especially if you have those dreamers and visionaries that are looking at a property and they, yeah, oh, we could do an ADU here. I mean, that's something that you can finance. So this can really open up some doors. I know a lot of people go into properties with that vision, but they don't have the financing because that can add another $30,000 or $50,000 depending on what the property is like already. Maybe even a little bit more with our cost of wood these days, but you know, that is something that can be financed into. So with these bigger projects, they usually have more than one draw. So the contractor has to cover the initial payout for the initial phase is what it's called, kind of like it would be on a construction loan. And then they basically get reimbursed. So as we go through and talk about those items, just keep that in mind that this is one that the contractor really needs to know what they're doing, especially if they're doing something structurally. Okay, so is there any questions on those? Is this helping you guys? Getting some good info out of here? Okay, good. Okay, let's see. So this is comparing the 203K versus the Homesyle. So the Homesyle is a Fannie Mae product, so it's just conventional versus FHA. So you can see that there's the sale transactions between family members are restricted, and with the Homesyle renovation, they're not. So that can kind of change things if you're selling to, you know, a child or some other family member and you want to give some equity and do some of those things. So then we would put you over to the Homesyle renovation rather than the 203K. Down payment's a little bit different. The FHA standard, you can't add a swimming pool, but you can repair a swimming pool. We don't have a lot of that in our area, but sometimes it does come up. Most of it is just about that identity of interest and how much money down that you're bringing in. So this is an idea of what a streamlined 203K would look like. So this is the one that, you know, structurally good home, doesn't really have a lot that's a problem, but just can use some sprucing up, and the clients probably don't have a lot of extra funds to do that on their own. So purchase price, you can see as an agent, when you're writing up the renovation offers, you always put in the purchase price that you're buying the house for. So you don't need to worry about the cost of renovations when you're putting that offer in. The cost of renovations actually never really gets extended to the seller. You know, once you do your inspections, you negotiate how you feel the sales price should be. And then after your inspections, if you didn't have your contractor come up, you'd have your contractor go out and put a price tag on everything. And then at that point, we determine which renovation product would be the best. So here you can see this house just had, you know, it's basically just needed some refinish work and paint, some new light fixtures, just kind of the cosmetic fix up for it. And the total renovation budget's $26,000. So that falls within the streamline, which means we don't have to have the consultant go out. We only get one bid. Once we have that bid, we send it in for an appraisal. So we get the bid and they do the appraisal subject to the future value after everything's completed. So if it is a fixer, you know, fixers can have a lower appraised value due to the deferred maintenance and things that need to be done. When you add something like this, we get to use the actual value as completed. So that can really change what the purchase price can be there. So you can see the required down payment here is, you know, $10,000. if you were to come in and buy that house and then come in and do the renovations, you'd have $26,000 on top of your down payment out of pocket. So you can see how that can be advantageous for someone that doesn't have a lot of cash, not all the cash buyers rolling around, but this is this is a good alternative for that. Okay, and then let's look at a full structural remodel. So you can see our purchase price in this example is $200,000. And I have a question I'll get to in just one second. $200,000 and the renovation is $250 to $350 on here. So you can see we had some foundation repairs, roof replacement. I think that roof replacement would probably be closer to $15,000 right now, but for this example, we'll just use the $7,000. They're going to add some square footage on here, do some carpeting and paint. Total repairs at $92,000, and then you can see this contingency. So sometimes these homes that do renovations or need renovations, they don't have their electricity or some utility on. Anytime that happens, we have to put a 15% contingency in, and then other soft costs such as permits and new inspections, things like that need to be done. So your total renovation budget here is $104,000. So these are the two different down payments, be FHA versus Homesyle. So $10,000, $15,000. It's a lot easier to do than your down payment plus $104,000 in renovation, or in this case, it'd have to be cash, and then they would, if you had foundation repairs, it'd probably come up on the appraisal inspection. So this can definitely open up some doors when you're talking about what your buyers can qualify for. Okay, and this is an example so you can see, how we determine the down payment. So like we said, it's the purchase price plus the cost of repairs, including, consultant, title updates. So just like new construction, it's called a date down if you've ever done any new construction. So during the construction, during the renovation, they want to make sure that there's no contractor liens. So they'll do a date down. And then if you have any PITI reserves, so if you remember, if we're looking at that structural FHA product, the structural repairs, that one you can finance in the PITI if it's necessary. And then the total acquisition cost of this is $230,750. So 3.5% is $8,076, and then the 5% down is $11,537. These numbers you don't need to figure out. We'll do it over here on the financing side of things. But when you are out and about and you do come into those fixers, it's just good to know, like, hey, the repairs on this thing's going to be about 50 grand, and purchase price is 350, so 400,000, and then the down payment's about 20,000 on that for conventional. So that's how you can kind of use these examples to your benefit when you're out chatting with your clients about it. So how does it go? What's the purchase cycle? What does it look like for you guys when you're out writing your offers? So basically, you indicate that you're interested in doing a renovation loan. So what I kind of see happen is that people go into like just regular financing, and then once they get into a property that needs some repairs, they will want to switch over to renovation financing, which is okay. It's allowable. It just adds a couple weeks onto closing. And usually if you found that many things in the inspection that really need attention to them, I find that sellers are willing to negotiate, because sometimes the alternative is taking a cash offer, and those really don't end up coming in as high as what a renovation offer would look like. So I'm going to take a pause and answer this question here. It looks like the question is from Joseph, and he wants to know, do all of these require a contractor, or is there one that would allow a handy home buyer to do the repairs themselves? Example, if they were a licensed contractor but no longer hold an active license. So it's a really good question. FHA used to allow self-help, and there still are some investors that will allow that on the Streamline, not on the full 203K. Most will not, but there is a loophole. What I advise my clients, especially if they work in the trades, is that it does require, if you're paid through this any kind of renovation loan, that you are a licensed contractor and you hold a license and you're bonded and insured. So just like if you're looking at doing a construction loan, you have to get the contractor that's going to be the general contractor approved. So we go through a vetting process with all of these loans. Each one of them has a different process, but we vet them. And we look to see that they have experience, because with these, what you want to avoid is the DIY projects, because if the bank gets that back and they had a bunch of DIYs that didn't go very well, if you've ever walked into a home listed, you know what it's like when you see those. So that can actually reduce the price the bank can sell the house for. So they try to avoid the self-help, but if you know someone that's licensed and you work in the trades and you do work underneath them and just don't get paid, we're going to pay out based on the final invoice. So what I find is that's a really easy way for you to get some sweat equity or self-help in there, especially if you know the person or know the contractor that's going to be working on the project. And I've had this happen a lot, actually. So it's usually the people that are in the trades want to do a renovation loan because they know how much work that they can do. So ultimately, the appraisal is done subject to what's ever on the estimate or the bids. And who does the work isn't important. Obviously, the person can't get paid on their own renovation loan, but if they go in and they help the contractor and they do a bunch of work and it's just not on the invoice as a payout, it's fine. Did that answer your question, Joseph? You can just give me a little note if you have any other questions there. Okay, so back to how do you write an offer? What do you do? Okay, so buyer indicates, hey, I would like to do a renovation loan. So I'll send you a renovation packet after our meeting or after our class here today, probably tomorrow. But I'll send it over and then you can send this to your clients if they have any interest in it. And once they decide if they want to try to do renovation loan, we get them pre-approved. But interviewing contractors in the very beginning, like we talked about, is key for these to be successful and smooth. So as soon as your buyer says, hey, I'm interested in a renovation loan, really, if you know contractors, you need referrals, I've got a couple, get them started right away and have them really vet them and get to know their pricing, because I've done quite a lot of these, and every hang up that I have done has been on selecting a contractor or trying to get a better price on something in the middle of the process. Not all contractors will want to do a renovation loan, so make sure that they understand, or a renovation project, I suppose, on their side of things. Make sure they understand the process. Call your lender, call me, whoever you're deciding to work with, but they really need to understand how the process works, because on the Streamlined 203K, they will get some money out right at closing. On the Homesyle renovation and the full 203K, they will not. So they have to know they're going to have to carry those accounts payable or receivable for a couple of weeks. So once all of that done, the easy part is really doing the estimate, getting it over to me, having me vet it, see what's missing, what needs updated, and then sending it out for an appraisal based on the future repairs. So depending on the size of the project, then either we'll get the HUD consultant out, or Granite Loan Management is the one that usually does the Homestyle renovation review. They're the ones that will be approving and administering the draws on these bigger projects too. So once we have everything together, we've got our appraisal back, we've got our finalized estimates, we close the loan, that's when the work starts. So nothing actually happens until after that loan closes. So after the sale and the loan closes. And then that's when the renovation is done. Once that's all done, we'll get finalized, an appraiser will go out, a final inspection will be done depending on the size of the project. The streamlines only need the appraiser to go out. On the big projects, we have to have whoever is managing the draws and the project go out and give a final approval, as well as the appraiser. So it's a good question. Will this work on every home? What do you guys think? You can just put it in the chat box. You think this works for every home? I'm going to say no. Sometimes the value won't be supported. If the sales price is too high, or if sales price is at market, it won't actually work, because remember, it's going to be the future appraised value, but we sometimes doing cosmetic fixtures won't actually increase the value enough for it to be financeable without a bigger down payment. So sometimes what happens is the project is set up, your contractor's done everything for estimate wise that needs to be done according to the client, and we go get the appraisal done, and it's all done subject to that. Within the appraiser will add a few things that nobody knew was a problem at that point. So the appraiser is still going to do a standard appraisal to make sure that there's no health and safety issues, whether it's conventional VA or FHA. They all have the same type of requirements, other than with FHA and VA, you know, they have the head and shoulders inspection of the attic and the crawl space, but they're all pretty in line these days with the things that they'll call out. And that has to do with, you know, any kind of exposed wood, any kind of water damage, things like that. So this can be a surprise sometimes after we get the appraisal. Okay, so this is a good list of what is required to be done on pretty much every appraisal. So not just renovation, but you know, if appraiser comes out and sees any of these things, they're going to call it out in the appraisal. So when you're out looking around and looking at houses, not just renovation loans, this is a good list to have. I'll send it out to you guys so you have it. But you know, any structural foundation issues, sometimes appraisers won't call that out, but often if it's really apparent, they will. And so I've had this actually happen to me one time in a renovation. We were planning on doing a streamline, and the appraiser noted that there was some major foundation issues. So we had to switch it over to the full 203K, which added some time. Thankfully, the seller was, you know, pliable and was, you know, knew that having a foundation issue was going to be a big deal for any buyer. So it was allowed us the time to close. So it can make it so an otherwise sale fail could also become something that will close for you. So if you've got a really bad inspection, but the clients love the house and the price is right and has room for those repairs to be done, switching over to a renovation loan can hold that thing together. As long as the seller is willing to give a little bit of time, you know, we can put it all together and have it switched over. And like, once we have the appraisal back, even if we're just at home inspection, it can be a really good way to say, okay, well, yeah, we see all these things that need to be done, but this is in your price range. You really like the location. You like all the amenities of the house. Let's try a renovation loan. Let's, you know, put all the things to, let's get an estimate, see how much it would cost to get everything all fixed up. So, probably know in our area, we have a lot of problems in water problems, but you know, as you get to different areas, there's different issues. So even in central Washington, they have different problems with houses than we have here. So, you know, figure out what the main things that you see come up in inspections that might, you know, cause a sale fail, and really adding value by talking to your clients ahead of time, talking to your buyers ahead of time at what could come up, how you could fix it, how you can remediate it. If you don't have a lot of funds, saying, you know, hey, let's talk about this renovation loan. This could be, you're in kind of at the hard price range, you know, and I guess right now that's a 300 to 350 price range. You're probably going to find some fixers that are going to have some issues. And if they go into it with the right mindset and knowing that, hey, these things are going to come up, most likely, this is what I see, this is how we can remediate it. You know, we can look at doing a renovation loan, you know, adding 20 or 30,000 to fix everything that you want to fix after closing. That can help you in a seller's market. Sellers don't want to do any repairs. They just want as is, and they don't want to deal with it. But instead of giving an as is and, you know, not doing an inspection, you could still do the inspection and just let them know you're going to do a renovation loan. You need a longer closing. So, you know, in that price range, if you have a cash offer, it's probably going to be a pretty low ball cash offer, because it's not one of these cash offers coming in, you know, $100,000 over listing price and in the $500,000 or $600,000 range. So it can really help set you apart and help you, you know, get a buyer that otherwise wouldn't be able to find a property that suited them to be able to work for them. Home inspections, that's a great way for you to segue into renovation. You know, usually what I see is someone will have one home inspection on their first house if it's a lower price range. That's, you know, it's a fixer, it's kind of rough, it needs some stuff done. And so they get kind of scared by all the things that need to be done. But if you can say at that point, maybe this isn't the house, but we should consider for this price range looking at a renovation loan for future. Here's how they work. You know, you can send them off the packet that I'm going to send you. They can contact me to get to know a little bit more. That way, when they go into their next house, if they did have a sale fail, they're armed and know what they're in for. Especially your planners. If you got someone that's a planner and they weren't anticipating that, you know, giving them some time to settle in and then giving it as an option on the next one could help out. So why Belay? We've got 15 years of renovation experience on just my desk. We've got a few different options for investors. So some investors, as you know, have different overlays, which means they have an additional set of guidelines that they put on their loan products. So we have like 3 or 4 different renovation lenders. And so if it doesn't work somewhere, for some reason or another, we can switch it over to another one. And I definitely have had really great successes doing that. We've been filling out these documents for a long time, and they haven't really changed in the 16 years that I've been a lender. So we can guide the contractor and help them out. Sometimes I just fill out the documents for them because they're very busy, and I'll just like give them a call and do a little Q&A and fill out. Because there's like they want kind of a resume style where they want to know what projects you've worked on, because yeah, especially a bigger project, if we're like, you know, $50,000 or $100,000 project, they want to make sure that you know and have been in the industry a while. So we'll review all the contractor bids before they go into underwriting to make sure they're accurate. That's a lot of hang up sometimes, is you'll send something into the underwriter and that will raise a big red flag. And once that's in there, it can't be unseen. So we'll review everything and go over the project, make sure it looks good before it goes into underwriting. What I find with people that are inexperienced with these types of loans is they don't know what to look for. They don't know what hangups to look for. They don't know where an underwriter is going to pick something apart or ask for, you know, the entire inspection. The last thing we want to do is be giving an entire inspection to the underwriter. We'll send all the documentation out for the loan officer, myself or Bree, she's our other loan officer that does renovation. But we'll send everything out for them so they can do DocuSign, so they don't even have to wet sign anything anymore, which is great. They used to have to be wet signed for these renovation products, but they don't anymore. So yeah, that's kind of my presentation. Normally I leave some time for some Q&A if you guys have some questions about these projects or products. This is a great quote: compete in a way that your competition doesn't even know that a game is going on. So, you know, you guys coming in with this in your pocket and how your knowledge can help your buyers, especially the lower price buyers. We do have a jumbo renovation product, but what I find is most of these guys have enough money that they don't need them and they don't want anybody to, you know, monitor their projects. But we do have that if that's a need for you. That can allow someone to get into the higher price ranges and, you know, Camas and Ridgefield and still be able to do some upgrades, some cosmetic upgrades if they want to do that. So with that, I'll leave some time for some questions. Do you guys have anything that you want to ask? You can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. Great. All right, well, we ended a little bit early, so if we don't have any more questions, that's kind of all I have for you guys. I'll send you some content. I'll send you the addendum that you'd need to change over and into like from FHA, a regular FHA into renovation, and just a couple other tidbits for you guys. And I'll put that little checklist in where you can see what appraisers really look for. I think that'll be handy as you're going through those fixers. Because sometimes what people want to do, I didn't say this yet. Some people want to just do the minimum standard to get it up to be able to appraise, and then they want to do all the repairs afterwards. This can also work for that too. So if you got a tradesman that knows how to do everything and just wants to finance in the minimum standard to meet the property requirements to close, I've done that a lot too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can structure these things. And I'm definitely a wealth of knowledge. So if you got questions, reach out. It's been fun to get to teach you guys today, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much, Jodi. Really great information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jodi.
Thanks, Jodi.
You're welcome, guys. I'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you, Jodi.
All right, Jodi, do you want anything from me? I'll send you an email list.
Yeah, send me an email list and I'll just get everything set up. I think that's all I really need. Hopefully it was educational for everyone.
It was really good. Really good.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Just give me the email list. I have a couple things I need to edit on one of those documents and I'm buried for time today. But I ended a little bit early. I hope that's
That's
okay.
great. I think, it was good. A few good questions. And I think it was really, I think everybody got a lot out of it. I know I did. And I didn't even, I'm not even a realtor. So it was really interesting. I didn't even know that stuff was around.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad to hear. Yeah. They're awesome. Honestly, like they're just such cool loans. If you can find the right contractor, that's the key. You got to get the right contractor. But I'm telling you, like, you can open up so many options. Like, you could just put 15% down and renovate a whole property as a rental.
Yeah, I wish I knew that when I bought my first bungalow in Northeast Portland. That would have helped me.
Yep, totally. I know. I kind of wish I would have done a renovation loan on this house, but I didn't. Anyway,
well, I'll see you later. I'll send you that list.
Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Thanks, Jodi.